Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are considering the principle of Chit, the Chinmatra, Purushattva. And in the last session, we were discussing that there is neither there is no kind of sarupya, similarity between Buddhitattva and Purusha, nor absolute vairupyam. And we came to this strange phenomenon on account of which there is imposition of atma on anatma, which is a phase in avidya. The insentient is considered to be sentient, and that is encapsulated in the sutra Shuddhaha api pratyayanupashya. So, Vyasa proceeds to explain this. He says, Pratyayam bauddham anupashyati tam anupashyan atattvam api tadatmakam iva pratyavabhasate. So, we saw the samvedanakshepanam, that is radiation or dispensations, the reflection theories. And we saw there that there is ricochet or there is re-reflection onto Purusha and then onto Buddhi. So with that reference, Vyasa is telling us, he says here, that Purusha with a Budhhikata pratyaya, the Buddhi will always have some reflection of objects, either physical objects or thought objects. So the Purusha will be giving reflection of that. And the reflection is what Purusha will be seeing, and the reflection of Purusha will be experienced by Buddhi. So, it is seen as Pratibimba and not Saksitvam. Because otherwise in spirituality, there is this concept of witnessivity. The Purusha Tattva is said to be witnessing. Now, here it is clearly mentioned that it is not the Saksitva in Purusha Tattvam, but it is reflection. So, the Purusha Tattva will be taking reflection and giving reflection. And therefore, it is not really Sakshi Bhava. The Sakshi Bhava, as it is understood as witnessing, in mysticism, it has a different connotation, because otherwise, on the psychological plane, we have something called as witnessivity, and somebody is a witness, something has witnessed. But that is on psychological plane. In metapsychology, it is altogether different connotation, even it is to be called Sakshitva. And precisely here, the concept of Pratibimbam is so effectively brought out. And therefore, a seeming conditions comes in Purusha that although I am not tadatmakam, but I am as if tadatmakam. That means the Purusha seems to be taking it as I am Buddhirupam, and Buddhi takes it as I am Atmarupam. So this is that metapsychological, very, very strange and intriguing condition that we have to understand. So, though the reality is that the Purusha-tattva is not similar to Buddhitattva, it appears to be identical. That is a very strange aspect of Maya and very difficult to really put in words. Now, so far, we were trying to understand the Buddhi Purusha difference or the dissimilarity and similarity, that is Bhedauns and Abhedauns. So, in ultimate reality, there is Paramarthikataha, there is Bhedauns. There is definitely a difference in ultimate reality. But without Paramarthikata, Aparamarthikataha, that is on mundane plane, there is Abhedauns, there is dissimilarity. And this unique condition, as already told you earlier, that Panchashikha has made an expression with regards to this very, very, very inexplicable phenomenon. So, Vyasa quotes Panchashikha here by saying, Tatha cha uktam, it has been said. What has been said? Aparanamini hi bhoktru shakti apratisankramacha paranamini arthe pratisankranteva tadvrittim anupatati tasyascha prapta chaitanya upagraha rupaya buddhivrittehe अनुकारमात्रतया बुद्धिवृत्ति अविशिष्टा ही ज्ञानवृत्ति इति आख्यायते. And no one has precisely put this inexplicable condition apart from Panchashikha. So what Bhashyakar is quoting here, he says, it has been said. What has been said? That aparanamini, nishkriya, asankramaka, nishkramaka, what Purusha-tattvam, which is aparanamini, basically immutable, unchangeable, then nishkriya, doesn't do anything, absolutely doesn't do anything, nishkriya, which doesn't have sankramanam, which doesn't have any movement. And that is how this Purusha is Bhoktru Shakti. Now this Bhoktru Shakti, on the other hand, is Parinami Buddhitattvam. And that is its artha, that is the object of Purusha-tattva. As Patanjali also has said, Sadagnyatash chitta-vrittayaha. The Purusha-tattva is ever knower of the chitta-vritti. So therefore, chitta-vritti is his artha of the Purusha-tattva. And this, as if there is a pratisankramanam into Buddhitattvam. And therefore, seemingly, Purusha-tattva tries to be following the Buddhi-vritti. Anupatini seems to be following the Buddhi-vritti, and that is Vritti Sarupyam aspect as discussed in very first chapter, Samadhipada. And this Labdha Chaitanyam, the seemingly conscious Chetanavat Buddhitattvam, whatever it has, a vritti, the same vritti is emulated seemingly and without any difference, absolutely identically, seems to be emulating. The Purusha Tattva seems to be emulating. Not really, but seems to be. What? Whatever is the Buddhi Vritti, ditto the same Buddhi Vritti, absolutely identical. And therefore there is Jnana Vritti absolutely identical to Chitta Vritti or Buddhi Vritti. So that's called Paurusheya Bodham or Paurusheya Vritti, which is absolutely indistinct to Buddhi Vritti. And therefore, the Purusha and Buddhi, although not at all sarupa, not at all identical, not at all similar, but at the same time not at all absolutely virupa. That is, not at all absolutely distinct. And therefore that phenomenon of vritti sarupyam comes. The buddhi pratisambedana is something that happens, we have seen through the example of pratisambedana like pratidhvani. And therefore all this mundanity takes place and seems to be real. And that is why this mundanity is existing. The prapancham is existing because of this particular thing, the bimba pratibimbam or pratisambedana or vritti sarupyam. The drashta and drushya therefore needs a discrimination, viveka, because they are so indistinct that it is not easy to have a distinction between so indistinct two. And that is why there is that viveka khyati sadhana. Now, this concept of spiritual realization today is so liberally distributed by the neo-spiritualists, the Sadgurus of our time, the spiritual masters of our time, and they so easily distribute this kind of vivekam or discrimination or difference. Very, very, very easily they do it. And they think by it's like snap of finger that one can get rid of this prapancha. And the prapancha would be going away by just a trick. And this is what we find in neo-spiritualism, where they give the meaning, you are not this, but you are that. You are not what you feel, but you are that. Tat tvamasi. And this has been the practice of modern spiritualism or modern spirituality, neo-adhyatma, that the so-called gurus in our times, in our Kali Yuga, are just doing it as a magic and trying to impart the wisdom that you are not what you think and you are that. And therefore neo-spiritualism is more interesting than a fascinating novel. Anyway, it needs a lot of purificatory processes, and the spiritual goal is not reached as it is now portrayed in our times, that it is just a trick. By snap of fingers they will remove your ignorance and they will give you that essential bliss to be experienced. It must be noted when it comes in Upanishads, Uddala Karuni and Shvetaketu in Chandogya Upanishad, the advice of Tattvamasi comes so often, and not just by one instruction that Shvetaketu understands that I am that, thou art that. But there are multiple times that has come, and Shvetaketu had to undergo penance of very high order, which is best brought out in Bhrugu Valli, the Bhrugu Vidya of Taittiriya Upanishad. So the Bhrugu is sent to be doing tapas and explore and discover, and not just given advice by the Acharya that you are Anandamaya. So first time Bhrugu comes with a revelation, Annamayam Brahma. So he is just told, he is not given anything kind of such wisdom that we get in neo-spiritualism. He is told, go and do the tapas, tapo brahmeti, tapas tattva. The tapas will help you realize what is Brahman. So go back. So he goes back second time and comes back with a revelation, prano brahmeti vyajanat. The pranam is Brahma. Again his Acharya tells, no, tapo brahmeti, you have to do tapas. Go back and do the tapas. Now what is this tapas? It is to explore oneself. It is not austerity in the sense we understand today, some austere practices. It is to discover and explore for oneself. So he goes back and again comes back third time. Mano brahmeti vyajanat. So he comes back with the revelation, mind is Brahman. Again he is told the same thing. Go and perform your exploration, self-search, and come back after self-search. So he comes back after one more round of self-search. And then with the revelation, Vijnanam Brahmeti Yajanat. Again he is told to go for self-search, and he comes for the fifth time, Anandam Brahmeti Vyajanat, and then only he is given the revelation. So understand the amount of patience and amount of tapasya that has to be done for self-exploration. It is not just by the trick of a Sadguru giving Upadesham. Even in the case of Chandogya Upanishad, Shvetaketu, there is one more instance that we should take note of. He gives by various examples, he tells him how that one is all permeating. Eka vijnanenam sarvam idam vijnatam bhavati. By knowing which everything is known. So he gives various examples such as rthika and ghatadi padarthas. And in one of those piece of instructions, he says, bring a glass of water and bring some salt. And he says, put the salt in water, keep it overnight, and come back tomorrow. So he goes back and soaks the salt into water, keeps it overnight, and comes back next morning. The today's acharyas would have done one thing. They would have taken a spoon, put salt into it and dissolve it. But he said, keep it overnight. That means the patience. The disciples need to have patience. Because Shvetaketu was boiling with inquisitiveness. What is this Brahman? And he is made to wait overnight, which today's Acharya, today's Guru would have asked him to also get a spoon and stir the water and dissolve the salt in the water and tell him how the salt dissolved in water makes the water salty, whether it is at the top of the glass or middle of the glass or bottom of the glass. The Brahmatattvam is like that. It is permeating entire creation. But he did not ask him to get a spoon, but just a glass of water and some salt. And that too not the table salt that we have today. So that salt takes some time to dissolve in water, is it? Keep it overnight and it should be totally dissolved, so that whole glass of water is salty equally, whether at the top of the glass or at the bottom of the glass. The salt settles at the bottom of the glass when you put it, but then the water becomes salty equally everywhere. The point is the patience. He wanted the disciple Shvetaketu to be having patience, although he was bubbling with enthusiasm. And unlike the modern gurus who try to give solutions to disciples instantaneously, it made him wait for overnight. So, tapas means to have patience, is one of the important signature conditions in the soul-searching, self-searching tapas. There are so many kinds of tapas, but this is the kind of tapas which is for self-realization, and it needs patience. And today's gurus know that disciples don't have any amount of patience, and that's why they try to give instantaneous solutions, as if the things are very, 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 very simple. While in Upanishadic time, Kshurasya Dhara was a path. It is difficult to cross over mundanity and enter into immortality. But today it has become so easy, just a piece of discourse one is through. Well, anyway, that is neo-adhyatma. The point is, the modern spiritual texts written by modern gurus, they have made Adhyatma more enticing. As a matter of fact, all enticement must be overcome in Adhyatma. But today's Adhyatma is enticing. That's the new Adhyatma. And therefore what they say or what they write is definitely more impressive than any of the best-selling novels. Anyway, let it be set aside. The point is, this Viveka Khyati is a sadhana. It is not just a piece of advice, Tat-tvamasi, and then one goes in ecstasy and says, Aham Brahmasmi. So, the point is, this Viveka Khyati is enormous sadhana, requires several lives of dedication and not couple of minutes and hours with the guru, where we think, just somebody touches the forehead and you get the enlightenment. Anyway, so let's proceed further in Vyasa's commentary. We have just now seen Panchashikha-acharya's authoritative statement with which Vyasa has quoted. The point is, the Drashta-tattvam, which is Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasagandhatmakam, one needs to be getting away from the enticements caused by these Vishayas. So that is how one has to understand the Vairagya needed for Viveka. And it is not just enlightening discourse from acharyas and gurus that you get today. Some enlightening discourse is a shortcut to entire Vairagya sadhana. So, anyway, the point is, Patanjali is also now mentioning that Viveka Khyati is only the upayam. To be getting this discernment of distinction between Drashta and Drushya, Purusha or Buddhitattvam. So it needs enormous sadhana, which Patanjali has mentioned and he implies here. Sankhyas therefore have stressed on Viveka sadhana, Vairagya sadhana. And basically we have to come out of this enticing attraction of Shabda Sparsha Rupadi Vishayas. Anyway, now we come to this point that Drashta and Drushya. There is a Swami Sevaka Bhavam which was earlier described. Drashta is Swami and Drushya is his Swam. Swaswami Sambandham. So, that is the relationship between the Prayokta and Prayojaka. Now, that is being mentioned in the sutra that follows. What is the Drushya? It is not just a distinct and diametrically opposite entity like Jada Chetana. So we know that Jada Chetana are mutually exclusive, distinct, absolutely distinct. But the problem that the Maya has created for us is that what is this Drishyam? It is not just a category diametrically opposite to Drashta, the seer category, the Chaitanyam or Chinmatra or Drishyamatra. Why is the problem that there is such a strong gravity of Drishyam, of the Buddhitattvam, such a strong gravity that we get the indiscrimination or imposition anatmasu atmakhyati? Why does it happen? Is it just similarity in the form? Because the snake and rope, there is similarity in a form and therefore we impose. There is no snakeness in the rope because of which we impose snake on rope. There is snake form in the rope and therefore we impose. There is no snakeness in the rope. But when it comes to Drashta and Drushya, there is a difference. Because basically both are nominal. Because rope has a form, snake has a form, and therefore we impose. Had the rope been formless and the snake been formless, there would have been no scope for imposing. Now, here the Atmanatma Avivekam or the imposition is not like that, because Atma doesn't have a form and then Buddhi having similar form and therefore we impose. So what is that? Why is it that there is imposition? So that's why a sutra comes, which is a very important sutra in teleology of Prakriti. Tadartha eva drushyasya Tadartha eva drushyasya atma. Tadartham means for the purpose of drashta. For the purpose of drashta, itself is the swarupam of drushyam. So just as we figuratively say that this is my soul, here lies my soul, that means I cannot be existing without that. Similarly, the Drushya has an Atma. This Atma is not a metaphysical word for which it comes. It says the very purpose of the Drashta to be giving whatever the purpose. The Drashta has two purposes, if you are aware of it, Bhoga Apavargartham, which was disclosed in the 20th Sutra. Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Sheelam Bhutendriyatmakam Bhoga Apavargartham Drushyam. Bhoga Apavargartham. Bhogarthata, Apavargarthata are the purpose of Purusha. And the purpose of Purusha itself is the soul, figuratively, of Drushyam. So serving the purpose of Purusha itself is inherent, intrinsic, core purpose of Prakriti. Prakriti is not such something very independent of Purusha as it is seen in one perspective, that it is totally distinct. It is totally separate. But now we are being told the teleological dimension of the Prakriti, that very purpose of Purusha, serving the purpose of Purusha and very purpose of Purushattva itself is the soul, the core aspect of Drushya, of Prakriti. So, the purpose of the seer or the very being, the Purushattva, the purpose itself is being of nature of Prakriti, nature of the scene, or the essence of knowable is only for the sake of seer. Why does this distinct Prakriti, totally diametrically opposite Prakriti exists? Because one can say, no, why at all Prakriti be created when there is going to be avivekam? Why the creator thought of creating it? It need not have been created at all. Then we would not have had this tangle and entanglement. So, this is an objection raised by some of the people that why creator at all created this Prakriti? If the Prakriti is to be getting rid of, we must get rid of this Prakriti, why at all was it created? Was it created as a mischief to vex us, torment us, and ultimately do something to get rid of it, which is a Herculean endeavor to overcome that? Why was it created? It should not have been created. The Maya should not have been there at all. Then we would not have had any problem. The thing is that the very purpose of Purusha is the very soul of Prakriti. So this is coming to explain the teleological purpose. If your soul is in someone, there is no argument in saying that why such person existed. Then if that person did not exist, which became your soul because of the affiliation, the affection, affiliation, etc., then the absence of that person would have been your absence itself. You would not have existed because that is your soul. If the beloved says that lover is my soul, or lover says beloved is my soul, that means I won't exist without it. And many times in love affairs we come across this: I won't exist without you, you won't exist without me. Then why the two were created? This question cannot be asked. Because if that is the soul, if the beloved is the soul of belover, the beloved is the soul of lover, this is ridiculous to argue, say that there should have been no beloved. That means there should have been no soul. If you did not have soul, you would not have existed. So this is why the Prakriti is there. Because the very purpose of Purusha itself is its core aspect, the core aspect of its existence. In absence of that core aspect, perhaps it would not have existed at all. So this is the teleological purpose that we have to understand, and this sutra is going to mention that. So in the sutram, tadartham, tad. By tad, what is denoted is Drashta, Purusha, Drishyamatra, Chinmatra, because this has been mentioned in the just previous sutra, and therefore he brings here the connectivity between this sutra and previous sutra. Tadartham, Drishyamantraha, that Drishi, tadartham, for the purpose of that Drishi, to accomplish the purpose of the Drishi is to be found in tadartham of this sutra. Now, what is the purpose? As I said, bhoga, apavargartha are two purposes. So, drishyam, which is Buddhitattva or Buddhisattva, which is Jadatattva Sanghata, which is collocation of Jadatattvas, they are for Artha Siddhi of Purusha. They are the purpose of Purusha. Therefore, when it is a purpose, you can't say it should not have been there. So, this is what is very, very superficial meaning of the sutra. So, which I was trying to impressively put across. Now, let us try to understand what is really implied here. How the Drushya has its soul in Purusha Tattva. Therefore, you can't say it should not have been existing. So, let us try to understand this sutra, which is going to open out the teleology, which is not a very simple aspect in metaphysics, because it's a branch of metaphysics. Don't think that it can be very easily understood, because basically it is metaphysics, a branch of metaphysics. Now we will try to go into that. The teleology, which is coming in the Sutra 2.21. But I think it is enough for time being today. We will proceed on this in our next session. Namaskar, all of you.